Welcome to Wildflower Weekly with Ashley Adair. I'm Ashley, and I work as an Ag and Natural Resources educator in Montgomery County, Indiana. This is our 10th week of Wildflower Weekly in McCormick Woods. We don't have as many blooms this week. As you can see behind me, the majority of the woods is not in bloom at this time. There are a few updates we have for you this week, but we'll keep it brief and hope that you have an opportunity to enjoy the nice weather this weekend. If you're ready, let's get started. Let's walk.
It's really just a green week out there. Most of the plants that we're seeing have no flowers on them at this time, so it makes our update a little bit shorter. We'll have more vegetative growth to take a look at in the coming weeks. For those of you joining us for the first time, this video series has mostly been discussing spring ephemeral wildflowers. For your reference, a spring ephemeral is a woodland plant that completes its above-ground life cycle in a short period of time, usually between March and June in Indiana. These plants provide many benefits to woodland animals in the spring, serving as food and nectar sources for insects and larger animals alike. We have reached the end of spring ephemeral season in Indiana as we approach the end of May. Most of our ephemerals, like the violet plant shown here, have senesced or died back, set seed, or are in the process of setting seed. Wildflower Weekly will dive into other woodland plants for the remainder of this series. Let's set the scene. I'm walking at McCormick Woods, a Purdue-managed property near Purdue's campus. The woods was walked on Friday, May 29th this week. The weather was 68 degrees Fahrenheit and very calm. It started out cloudy, but it cleared up very quickly. This property is open to the public for hiking and mountain biking and is partially managed by a local mountain biking organization. Well, our weather is starting to look like a more typical summer weather pattern. We'll cool off a bit this weekend, but the high temperatures at the beginning of the week really accelerated some of the understory growth in the woods this week. Just as a reminder, I'm hiking in northwest Tippecanoe County. If you're just as few as 15 miles north or south of me, you could be experiencing different growing conditions and different stages of plant growth. If you have a species that you're wondering about, please feel free to reach out to me for identification. Contact information can be found in the description of this video. Here's how it works. Each slide has information organized in a particular way. Here is the photo, here is the scientific name, and here is the common name. Below the common name, you'll find some interesting facts about the plant, how it's pollinated, its role in the ecosystem, and other information. We've added an update graphic in the bottom right of some of our slides to show you what's happening with a flower that we saw in weeks past. This week we're starting off with large leaf waterleaf, another of the species of waterleaf that we tend to see here in Indiana. This is the last waterleaf that's in bloom in McCormick Woods. Although a different species from the other two waterleaf species that we've seen, which are Virginia waterleaf and great waterleaf, this plant and its ecology are fairly similar. The main difference is that it has different shaped leaves as well as cream-colored flowers. Here's a closer look at one of these large leaf waterleaf leaves. Say that 5 times fast. Another new plant this week is Tradescantia or Spiderwort. Tradescantia may be a familiar name to those of you who grow houseplants. There are several species of spiderwort that occur naturally in the Midwest. The flowers of these plants are attractive to bumblebees, and the plants are so named for the spider web-like fluid that stems ooze when they are cut. This is a member of the dayflower family. Some plants in the spiderwort genus thrive in woodlands, like the one shown here, whereas there are other species that thrive in open prairies. We have a bug alert. Falak Sara. This particular genus of insects produces a gall on hickory leaves. The galls form when these aphid-like insects hatch and feed on leaf tissue. The galls start out pale and turn darker before splitting open and releasing adults. The eggs will then overwinter and the whole cycle will begin again. Remember, galls are a response to tissue irritation, in many cases irritation by insect feeding. Galls are typically not something that we worry about treating. Here's a closer look at these galls. If you look closely, you can see a thin line through the middle of each of these galls, which is the part that will eventually split open and free the adults inside. An update on violets this week. Violet plants around McCormick Woods began setting seed this week. This plant produces a 3-chambered capsule that has several seeds in each chamber. This is another plant that flings its seeds away from the plant when it's touched, similar to the wild geranium. Hopefully we can come back and see this process in action. An update on some of the flowering trees this week. This that we see here on the ground is a catkin. This is a wind-pollinated flower, This is a wind-pollinated set of flowers that's of a single sex, produced by a variety of trees, including willows, hop hornbeams, and hickory trees. This catkin may have dropped down from a shagbark hickory, which flowers around this time. Catkins are so named for their softness and their resemblance to a kitten's tail. Another tree flower, Liriodendron tulipifera, the tulip tree. This tree is sometimes referred to as a tulip poplar, but it is not actually a true poplar. This tree is named for the flowers that it produces, which resemble tulips. The wood of this tree was used by Native Americans to make dugout canoes. This tree is also Indiana's state tree. They tend to be relatively fast growing and can get quite large, as you see here on the left. This time of year, keep an eye out for the petals and the whole flowers themselves along the trail as you're walking in the woods. A fungus alert. Kretschmeria dusta, the brittle cinder. This is a parasitic fungus that can cause soft rot in live trees. It can also continue decomposing that tree after it has died. Many of the mushrooms that we see are decomposers and focus on decomposing old wood, but this is a particular type of fungus that can feed both on live tissue and dead tissue. This fungus is gray with a well-defined white border, making it distinctive looking. It will turn darker as the season progresses. Here's a closer look at that gray color with the white border. I promised you a brief update, and that is indeed what we got. That's just the way the flowers bloom sometimes. As always, stay safe and practice physical distancing. Make sure to get outside when you can. We'll see you next time.